My name is Paul Chia and my lecture is about developments in offshore destinations. I will talk about India, the most important outsourcing destination, but I will also mention a few other lesser known countries. My background in the Netherlands is in software development since the 1980s. However, since the beginning of the 1990s, I became especially interested in international IT cooperation. At that time, I was doing a part-time university study and where I graduated on research on the upcoming software sector in India. That was in 1994, even though there was not so much Dutch outsourcing place to India taking place yet. But 1 year later, in 1995, I started my own consulting firm, GPI Consultancy. And the main task is in assisting Dutch companies when they want to start with offshore sourcing. One of the activities is to assist them with country selection and with provider selection. Based on my experiences, and a few years ago I wrote a book titled Offshoring Information Technology, together with an American professor, Aaron Carmel. This book also contains a chapter on country selection. So, since 1995, I'm fully employed in the field of offshore sourcing. And what we have seen over these years is the rise of many offshore destinations. This is a picture from a Dutch perspective. You can see the yellow stars. They indicate the countries where the Dutch companies are outsourcing or offshoring their IT projects. India is a big yellow star because a lot of work is going to India. But you can see the yellow stars too in many other offshore destinations. In Asia, in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and even in Africa and in Latin America. And by the way, there are much more potential outsourcing destinations. These are shown by the red stars. So the Dutch are not working, of course, in all the potential destinations, but for a small country, we are quite active. Actually, country selection is not always important. If it is only a small IT project, there is no reason to consider a specific country. In many cases, you can even place such a project on an online marketplace, and a lot of providers will bid on it. You can execute a project completely through the internet, through online work. So in that case, you don't care where the work is being done. But if the project is larger or more complicated, and especially if you want to set up your own office abroad, then of course it is very important to consider which country you want to work with. Important are of course geopolitical considerations, such as the risk of conflicts. And unfortunately there are a lot of conflicts nowadays. For example, some Dutch companies have been doing software development in Ukraine, but because of the conflict with Russia, they have decided to move their work elsewhere in Eastern Europe or to India. So political conflicts are always an issue when you want to consider a country to work with. And of course, there are many more other factors. In my book, I've mentioned some of the main factors which also give an indication of the success of a country. For example, how much can you reduce your costs? So the local wages are important. But then there's also the issue of human capital. Is it easy to find software engineers? Some countries do not have a large number of IT staff available. So if you want to conduct a very large project, perhaps you should consider a larger country and not a small one. There are also additional factors. For example, the quality of life. If you want to set up your own office abroad, your own development center, then it is important that you like the specific city. This is especially the case if your managers are going to live in that city for some time. Government vision is also important. Is there, for example, a policy to attract foreign investment by offering tax reductions? But in most cases, the labor costs are the most important factor to look at, because in software development the costs are mostly driven by labor. And then you can see the differences between the many countries, of course. But there are also differences inside the country. The main IT centers in India are very successful, and so they have become more expensive than in the past. That means that foreign companies might not choose for Bangalore anymore, but they will select less popular cities in India. And this is also visible in many other destinations, even the nearshore destinations. And of course, even within a country, there are differences between the providers. A large and experienced service provider will be more expensive than a smaller one. So in general, country selection and provider selection always require a lot of research. And this will take time. And when you want to set up your own office, your own development center, then this is even more a complicated issue. You then have to take into consideration how you will hire the employees, how much rent you will have to pay, and how much overhead costs you will have.